Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first annual Heart of the World Oscar Review Show. Woo! That's right, everyone. We got surprises. We got guests. We got prizes. And we got a lot of movies to talk about. We're talking about the cinema from mid-1927 to mid-1928. So, Busters, take out your movie glasses, because we're going to the cinema. Okay, and then imagine a big intro comes. Okay.
That was great.
Thank you.
That was fantastic.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the review show. It's Heart of the World again. We have to get a regular release schedule. But this is our Oscar review show. You might have been tricked if you thought we were really reviewing the 2022 to 2023 Oscars.
Fool.
But we're actually reviewing the first ever Oscars. That is the one that took place, I think the ceremony was either 1928 or 1929.
Around then.
Yeah. But so we are going to be reviewing the cinema from that era. We're going to be talking about a whole group of silent films and one really good talkie. So we'll be having a real riot over here. We'd like to introduce our guest.
Hello.
Do you want to say your name?
My name is Owl. I'm here.
It's a pleasure to meet you. We'll ask you a few questions on the spot,
Right.
including about the French Revolution.
Great.
You will be quizzed, and
All right.
it will be graded.
I'll remember.
I was gonna ask about the Chinese Revolution, but okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
what
we
that
don't do that kind of stuff.
Oh,
We don't do
okay.
that kind of stuff here. So before we start, I wanted to give a little bit of context about what's going on. And well, you know what? Actually, let's talk to Owl Peel for a minute, and then we'll really get into
Owl,
it.
talk to me. All right.
So Owl, do you want to tell us just a little bit about either yourself or about you, the kind of movies that you typically enjoy?
I don't typically watch silent movies.
Yeah.
Or
I was
in
gonna ask you.
general,
I was gonna ask you about that in the second question.
Movies from like 100 years ago at this point. I mean, my music.
Nearly 100 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, give it a bit. My movie taste has really drastically changed in the last few years. 5 years ago, I was just watching Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And now I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, me too.
Oh my god.
I think we've undergone similar transformations over
Yeah.
the past couple years.
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell us a couple of some of your favorite movies?
I don't know why I'm forgetting. I know them.
It's 'cause you're on
RRR.
the spot, yeah. Yep.
Love that movie.
Based movie.
Everything Ever All at Once.
Yeah.
The Matrix. I know you guys aren't as big on The Matrix, but I love The Matrix. I think The Matrix is awesome. Die mad about it.
All right. I mean, you talked a little bit about some of your experience with, really old film and silent era films. Do you have any specific recollections of films that you had seen prior to this review, silent films that you remembered, or?
I did see Modern Times at the Brattle some months ago.
Are you a Modern Times guy?
Modern Times was great.
Modern
I really
Times.
like that
Modern
one.
Times, based.
I can't think of any others, but I mean, I did one we'll get to, Buster Keaton.
Yep.
That I kind of it was playing at the Somerville, and I ended up just going to it. It turned out that was one of the ones we were doing. So.
Awesome. Julian, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I guess we can both talk about this. Do you want to talk a little bit about your earlier exposure to silent era film? How much did you feel like you knew about it?
Well, my dad is a big film buff. He's been watching silent art film, other kinds of film, just all his life. So I definitely had some more exposure than a lot of people as a kid, but I wouldn't say I was deep into silent film. I'd say before us recording this episode, my favorite silent films were probably I'd say Un Chien Andalou, which some people might find surprising. It's an early surrealist short film by Louis Buñuel and Salvador Dali.
Very, very important historically, and a pretty good film at that.
Yeah.
We'll actually talk a little bit about early experimental film, because we have a really interesting picture here. Do you have anything else to say? I'm sorry.
Nothing really. I don't know. Other than that, I've seen some classics. Obviously seen Modern Times, seen The Gold Rush, seen other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I enjoyed silent film. I wouldn't call myself an expert, really. I definitely have seen a collection of pictures, though, and I probably see silent films, once every 2 or so months. Because it is interesting when you look at it, the span in regarding the creation of movies to, today, right? The actual span of silent movies is pretty short.
Yeah. It's like what? Well, I guess.
Pretty. Especially
Okay,
because
technically you could say it's like 35 years, but that's
but we're
like,
talking about we're talking
if
about
you count real movies, it's maybe like 20.
We're talking about really the beginning, and then we're really only getting into the rise of the feature film around this era. We're talking about around the 1920s. So, if you guys don't mind, we'll talk a little bit about the context of the 1920s. The 1910s that ended with a bang, which would be. Do you guys have any guesses as to?
Is it the race? What's it called? Birth of a Nation?
No, that's the movie. Can you guess the event that really defined the 1910s?
Oh, World War I.
World War I kind of changed a lot of things and really left an impact.
Wasn't great.
No, people weren't
really?
having fun. Well, actually, one movie we'll debate over
One
how
movie
great
we're gonna have a
World
lot
War
of fun.
But World War I really defined the 1910s. So there was 2 contrasting portraits of how the world had come out of World War I. We had America, which was the big winner of World War I in a war they didn't start. We came out into the roaring 20s, really profitable time, boom of consumer culture that we'll see talked about in a couple of these films.
Oh, definitely.
And especially as we enter in the 1920s, a contrast between the country life and the city life. We'll mostly see depictions of the city life, but we'll see some considerations of the contrast between the two. Meanwhile, in Europe, nothing is good. And everyone is miserable.
I hope that got better in the 30s.
Massive depression across all of Europe, and we're going to see that. Well, we won't really see it in a lot of the European features that we'll watch, or we'll talk about. But
there are some Europeans having a bad time in one, but it's way earlier. So
it is important to discuss when we're talking about.
I would also obviously the Russian Revolution also happened.
Oh yes.
Big impact on sort of the impact of socialism on a world scale, and we definitely see that in much of our cinema.
Yeah, well, we're going to see a great depiction of it, at least in my opinion. So let's just mention really quickly what was kind of going on in the world stage right as we enter this era. So films, especially here in America, were not treated as really the most high art thing. They were really seen as a short little thing to be shown in a lot of variety shows, and that could be presented in the 1910s with the American Nickelodeons. But that's really going to change at the dawn of the 1920s. Feature films become more and more popular. As much as we don't like to say it, D.W. Griffith really helps out here in America in consolidating those elements and making successful feature films, even though he eventually got kind of thrown out of Hollywood, not because he was racist, but because he went broke. Meanwhile, on the world stage, things are similarly developing. In Germany, and less commonly cited France, Impressionist and Expressionist movements are really pushing cinema to its boundaries. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union, the montage cinema movement, we're going to see one of its filmmakers, but the montage cinema movement is also pushing cinema and pushing the way that it's edited and presented. And we'll also see, we can't talk about it too much, but Japan was also developing their own silent films.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ozu and...
was Ozu?
Ozu,
I thought he was...
In the late 1920s, they had already started.
Really?
We've lost most of those
like
pictures.
50s.
Well, no. So we've lost most of those pictures after World War II. We have a couple exceptions to that rule, but a lot of those old silent films from Japan are lost. And another guy, who's the guy who directed Harakiri?
Kobayashi?
Yeah, Kobayashi, I think, was also starting to direct some movies.
Oh, really?
In
I
the
know
late
he also fought in World War II. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kurosawa got out of that joint. So there's kind of a map of what is going on in the world as we talk about the 1920s, and I'm sure we're going to mention a little bit more about the development, especially here in America. What was it like going to the movies, right? It was both for the common class and the bourgeoisie. For the most part, it was young people going, especially to those mid-sized theaters.
The whippersnappers.
Yeah, it's actually a majority girls as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, girls loved romances and comedies. Boys were more akin to westerns, but they would also go to comedies. So comedies were a big hit. We should also mention in America, a big development that we're going to get to is the development of Hollywood itself.
Oh, yes.
D.W. Griffith was an early contributor, but more and more kind of movie makers, and especially the rise of stars, the concept of being, a movie star is growing, and we're going to see a few of them.
And you even had directors like shifting over from other film industries to Hollywood, like notably F.W. Murnau, who one of his movies we watched.
Yeah, moved from Germany all the way here to America.
Which one was that?
Sunrise, Song of Two Humans. The rise of Hollywood, the idea of the star, those are all growing, and really we're moving toward the idea of a feature film. Of course, some smaller theaters are going to hang on to this kind of idea of a variety show. Meanwhile, big movie palaces are growing in bigger cities. These are for the very rich people. Oh, honey, I think we'll go down to the movie palace, the motion picture palace. That's what they're really called. And so you'll have these big waiting rooms, and then you'll all go in. These will seat thousands of people.
Were those multiplexes or not?
I think mostly they were one screen, but they could seat a huge amount of people. They were thousands of seats. You would still probably see a variety show, but you would also get the feature experience. You'd have an orchestra. Meanwhile, smaller theaters, you probably just have one guy playing the piano who might not even have the official score for a film. It was
just
common
improvising.
Well, exactly. There was common use. There was certain melodies that you could use that were seen as, okay, this will always fit melodrama. This will always fit romance. This will always fit comedy. So they might play one of those. Or if you're in a motion picture palace, of course, have the organ. But anyway. I'm rambling on. I'm sure we'll get to some of this. So our first release, we're going to go in chronological order. I didn't even talk about the foundation of the Academy. The Academy was founded by bank trusts to stop unions.
Wait, actually?
Yay!
So, Meyer of Goldstein and Meyer said, the entertainment industry is getting really big, and we're worried the actors, now that the stars are developing, right? The actors are going to start unionizing. So he decided, what if I created a way to not involve unions, but create a mediation between different legs of the entertainment industry? That would become the Academy for the Motion Picture and Sciences. 36 people were introduced to the board, including Harold Lloyd, in a big meeting. Then they would slowly decide, okay, we're going to start an award ceremony, which was
I always knew Harold Lloyd was a union buster.
much different from the award ceremony we see today. The ceremony lasted 15 minutes. The winners were announced 3 months before. Sorry,
We gotta do that now.
Yeah, we forgot to send out our prior notices. Awards were told 3 months before. The show was not broadcast at all until the following year, in which it would start going onto radio. And we'll talk about a couple other exceptions in the actual ceremony for things that are different than we think of today.
Never really liked the Oscars, but now I have a good reason.
It's because it was made against union.
They were just trying to union bust.
Like every good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Our first picture is actually one of the most important of the Oscars. We will be talking about Wings, 1927.
Which happened to be the Best Picture winner for the year.
Of course. So we can describe Wings a little bit. Wings is a film about these two boys who were both, these two boys who go off to the big war, World War I. They're both aviators. They will fight.
So excited.
They're having fun.
Yay!
They're shooting down those damned Germans. The film's a romance war film. So let's talk a bit about this. Julian, what do you think of Wings 1927?
I think it's real good. Wings? Wings is probably the earliest action film I've seen. I could be wrong about that, but you just had this... I think some of the most notable scenes in this are these plane fights. This movie, shot in 1927, but there are these incredible shots of just like planes like circling around, like getting into fights, shooting at each other with machine guns. This was, before drones, before like anything like that, and I imagine the actual shots were done from a plane, right?
Oh yeah, so they would hook the camera up to the back of the plane.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just crazy to think of.
It's wild. And you could see modern plane fighting movies taking example from this too. If you look at Top Gun.
Yeah, Tom Cruise would be where he is now.
Yeah.
That was the main. I was like, this is just Top Gun. I haven't seen that movie, but
it's
the
like
exact
Top Gun,
setup
but
for
funny.
Yeah, it's this exact setup for this kind of micro genre of plane war movies.
Yeah.
They're all borrowing from what Wing set out, and it does feel like a very modern movie. As this kind of schlocky blockbuster.
Especially with like those POV cockpit shots where you just
Yeah.
like have the guy like sitting there like shooting his machine gun like.
Oh, and then you sometimes see that they get that shot where it's like they got a bunch of like, I don't know what they did. I don't know if they shot it or they like just had like squib kind of things, but in the plane and they'll go like, right? The bullets will go along the plane.
Yeah.
But you get those crazy fights too, where they're not only looking at the head, they're literally watching the planes.
Yeah, from a distance, you see them like spiraling.
Yeah.
You'll see a plane dive down. You'll see one like unleash a stream of bullets. It's wild.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most impressive part of the movie. The cinematography
Definitely.
and how they actually stage these plane fights. But I will say the movie does definitely have quite a bit of merit. It has, at least for me, it had a decent emotional impact. Had a pretty powerful ending, I think, and you have this romance plot, which I think for me personally was the weakest part of the movie, but I still enjoyed it. I think it was it was worth having. I think Chris might disagree with me on that.
No. I completely agree with almost everything Julian said except for the romance plot. I won't pretend like I don't love Wings. This might be the most I've ever agreed with the Oscars for their best picture, and it was their first one, so good job. By the way, at this point, they didn't call it Best Picture, they actually called it Outstanding Picture.
Outstanding.
Yes, it's the Outstanding Picture of the Year.
Outstanding picture.
But, I mean, I did call it a schlocky blockbuster, and it is kind of schlock in a certain sense of kind of, low-hanging fruit. But God, you couldn't have more fun than Wings. I mean, Wings is just one of the more movies that we saw. Definitely not kind of artsy-fartsy. A lot of when you get down to the technical level, right, a lot of what you're seeing is, cinematography is good, the editing is good, the score is good, but it's really just the synopsis of these elements to make such like just throw it all out there, right? Throw out the goofy emotional moments of like, oh mother, I'm sad, I'll have to leave, I'll take my teddy bear.
Little tiny.
And like the dramatic love plot of like, oh, I love Sylvia, no, give me the picture back from the locket.
I love her.
That's a great scene, yeah, exactly. I call him Chud. I call Daniel Chud because he has like a Chud head.
I was wondering why you called him that one time.
He's got a square head.
One of my favorite bits from this was there's this one character called Harold Schwimpf.
Best guy.
Very-
I think it's,
whole-
isn't it Herman Schwimpf?
It's Herman.
Very stereotypical German name, and they're fighting the Germans, so it's like the recruiters automatically think this guy's the enemy, so they're like all mad at him, and this one guy like decks him, but then like he rips off his jacket and like pulls out, he has an America tattoo right here.
What does it say? Red, white, and blue?
Yeah. He like moves his arm a little.
So
it
but
looks
like his
the
like
flag is
flab
waving.
It's
so funny.
It's
I
so
think
funny.
Stars and Stripes on it.
Oh, I think it does.
Stars and Stripes.
But the other thing about that is, my favorite part of that bit is that he takes his shirt off, and when he's doing that, they think he's about to just start fighting them.
Yeah.
The first guy's like, whoa, whoa, and then he gets to do it. Then the second guy just clocks him right there. It's like,
Oh
and
my
then when he sees it, he's like, oh, okay. But it's
Well, it's so strange too because they just drop Schwimpf. He just kind of disappears.
he's
like-
gone after that.
like-
He has one show
he has
up.
2 moments, and then he's gone. It's the same bit both times. Like, he never shows up.
Well, no. He also shows up in the boxing scene where the guy's like knocking him in the head.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think they said, in the movie it also said he he got kicked out of the army, but he still helped and like.
When they turned into a mechanic, he wasn't good enough for aviation.
He's the comic relief that's there for like 30 minutes and is absent the rest of the movie.
So good. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was any film that I was dreading to watch more than Wings.
It is also our longest picture.
It's long, but I don't think it feels like it. I think it goes by, just because it's so much like, random stuff, right? I think when you talk about Wings, the idea, and it's not terrible because I love this movie, but it's throwing everything at you.
Oh yeah.
It's emotional moments. It's stupid like silly comedy moments. It's romance like heartbreak moments. It's like classic war film moments. It's action moments. It's sticking all the possible things it can into one like meaty package.
I also think it's an interesting movie to like try to examine its ethical standpoint because like it feels like I'm not quite sure if it has one. Like
it's like war is bad, but also really fun.
Yeah. Like it shows these like epic war scenes where characters are having so much fun and are so excited, and it's like bad.
And then it's like a guy getting like shot 5 times. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's great when you see the pilots and like blood comes out of them.
You sort of see this contrast between what's happening on screen and the actual text.
Yeah.
Because the text is like, the moral is war is
the
bad.
daring fighters went into the battle and they were victorious, and it's like they lost like half their guys. Like it was bloody, it was brutal.
I don't think you really like.
But they had fun.
Rule
number 1 of World War I is have fun and be yourself.
Stay safe too.
And stay safe.
Yeah. I don't. The title cards and the film philosophically are jarring with each other, except for at the end of the movie. Should we spoil Wings 1927? Are we worried? Guys, if you don't want spoilers for Wings,
cover your ears.
Skip
and go,
ahead.
la, la, la.
Skip ahead 3 minutes. I think. Okay, me and Julian recommend this movie. Al, would you recommend people watch Wings?
It's all right.
Okay, that's a warm recommendation.
I'll get into my thing about Wings.
Yeah,
later.
I was gonna tell you in just 1 second. I was gonna let you talk because I'm banning you from talking. But I want to talk about the ending, which is just so, oh my God, the ending. I expected it, right? But at the same time, it's like, dude, they can't pull that stuff in like 1927. They wouldn't do that kind of devious thing in 1927. What? No more Chud?
No more Chud.
It's tragic. But then he gets home and he's like kissing Clara Bow. Oh my God, she's so hot.
I think that scene also contributes to the weird war thing, because the whole thing is, one of them, they're both flying, one of them's in a German plane, and the other one starts trying to shoot him, not knowing that he's his friend. And then it's like he's with him, he's like, oh, I was a terrible mistake, I shouldn't have done that. He's like, but you did shoot a German plane though.
That is true.
Yeah.
It just feels like
you did shoot a German, I wasn't the right guy, but it was the right plane.
It's so strange, just because ideologically.
And it's a nice comforting him, making sure he doesn't feel horribly guilty for the rest of his life.
It's also funny because this movie just the perspective is not very nuanced. It's just purely Germans bad.
Yeah.
We have to kill them.
Well, except for that guy Von Kellerman.
That's true.
I don't remember that character.
He's the character who, when he saw that that Jack's gun was jammed, he was like, okay, fair play, and just flew off.
And he shows up later.
Oh yeah, I wasn't really paying attention to that scene, but
he shows up later to
I do
drop
remember
off
one
the
where they
letter to say that Daniel is lost behind enemy lines.
they were fighting, and they were just like, oh, we're done, which was a nice moment.
You can't see that ending as any ideologically anything other than anti-war, right? Because it's I literally killed my best friend trying to kill Germans, right? But it turns out they're just guys too.
Just so caught up in it that you're not even paying attention. I mean, I wouldn't expect them to see from that distance, but still.
No, of course, yeah, but it's just
Right.
it's a really if you ask me, it's a really touching scene. And my mouth was agape. But then it has that little sweet ending with Clara Bow. And Clara Bow, we should mention, was a pretty big star at the time. She's the first star that we're going to encounter. She was called the It Girl. She was in a movie called It, where it was oh, she's so hot. People loved her at the time. She was a symbol, a sex symbol in the roaring 20s.
She's very pretty.
To say the least. What do you think of the movie Wings, Owl?
I think it's fine. It's technologically, from a production standpoint, I almost don't know how they made this movie. It's so impressive. The fights and like, there's one shot that I really loved where it's when they're in like Paris and they're just like partying, and there's just the camera's just going through these tables like over them.
The pan shot, like the dolly shot. That's
it's a really cool shot. And I had to I rewind that. I was like, whoa, that was a really cool bit. But like all of that, all the technological stuff, really impressive. The movie itself, I don't really care about. Like it has its moments. Schwimpf is great. Like there's some fun character stuff. The Bubbles thing where he's drunk is really silly.
Such a strange scene.
It's so
it goes
silly.
on so long too.
But I didn't really honestly, I kind of feel the opposite of how you felt, where I was more interested in the characters like having their nonsense, and I was just like whenever there was a fight, because it was just the same thing for like 10 minutes.
That's kind of true.
I know, I'm an action movie person, but I just wasn't.
The fights are also
there were good.
This movie has way too many title cards.
Yeah.
I also just think this movie's too long. It's
I could
really
see how you
long.
think that.
I think about it and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure how I'd cut it down other than making some fights a little shorter.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I don't. When I was watching, I was kind of in the mentality of just like, I don't want to watch a 2.5-hour movie right now.
Ground scenes are really good too.
I think if I watch it again,
I actually
might
think
have a better
the
time,
ground
but
scenes were some of my least favorite ones.
What? They were like crazy.
No, not the ground scenes, the ground fight scenes.
Like, no, I like those. I like them. I said, wow, that looks like World War I. There's soldiers on the boots on the ground.
I think I enjoyed the first bit of the movie in the very end, some of the middle, but there are just some other parts where it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
I have to confess, I do have a secret love affair with people not getting physically shot in the movie, but just going, oh,
that's great.
That's my favorite in war movies, when they just stand up, they go,
There's like some blood effects, but then there's just guys going like, oh.
There's some guys who just like topple over. They like take a terrible fall. You go, what the hell happened to him? And also, people get like, there's so many things that like crash.
Yeah.
Planes like crash all the time.
Crashed a plane into a house at the end.
So this movie had a budget of $2 million, which now would be around $35 million. It wasn't the highest budget movie at the time, but it was. I'm sure it was, close to it.
It was decent amount.
We're going to talk a bit about, we have a few of these
big,
talk about these early features, and a lot of them are very spectacle based.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to that, to be honest. I love look at that.
I did mention RRR at the beginning, and that movie is entirely spectacle. So.
I love the scene where that German soldier is like shooting, and then just a tank runs him over, and it like crushes the little like huddies in it. And you're like, how did they crush that guy? Because you see him, he's not there anymore.
I don't know what it is, but I know there's some more recent movie or whatever where there's a scene where a guy gets crushed by a tank, and it's done practically, but they just had like a hole in the ground, so the tank just drove over him, but he was fine.
That makes sense. Also, that scene where the bombs get dropped, and you're like, how did they get that?
That scene, I was like, did they just like?
Did they blow up a town?
Did they blow up a town?
And then the roof falls on the actual soldiers.
Oh yeah, I forgot that happens.
There's two shots of them bombing that town. And at first I was like, okay, well, they clearly just reused the shot. And then I realized it was a different shot. And I was like, did they blow up it twice?
Did they went back?
What did they do here?
Double dip. All right, well, I think we all really enjoyed Wings.
Rambo's there in the car. It's like, whoa.
Oh, my God. With her little outfit, her little war outfit.
I like her outfit.
She gets fired. I love her war outfit. That's my favorite. She gets fired for, like, no reason for the movie.
She's just, like, getting dressed.
It's a good scene at the end, though, when Jack's like, oh, I slept with a woman. She's like, it was me. It was me again. Okay. Our next movie, so I guess we're knocking out the big two. Our next movie is going to be Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans.
Oh.
I didn't see this one, so.
Yeah. So this one won the only winner of Best Artistic Picture, an award that was immediately removed in the second year. Julian, you want to tell us a little bit about?
Sunrise is a film about a guy who he's having this love affair with this city girl, and this city girl wants him to move to the city with her, and tries to convince him to drown his wife.
Whoa!
It's pretty quick. And that's a great scene. That's one of the best scenes in the movie.
I wasn't ready for that one.
Yeah, one of the best scenes in the movie. Well, also, the title card is really good. She goes, what is it? Why can't she just get drowned?
Yeah, and then it's like
Yeah, it's
the
really
title
cool.
cards all wavy. Actually,
Get more
fun fact,
drowned.
those title cards were added after the movie came out, and
Oh.
Murnau hated them.
Oh.
Which
I think they're cool. I think
Like
they're cool.
Blade Runner.
I love when people play with like title cards.
Yeah.
You see that in stuff like Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney. All the title cards are different styles, and they're really cool. I'm trying to think of the. I don't think we had any more that were like that for this show. But the Sunrise, they sometimes get manipulated in fun ways. It's really cool.
Yeah. I know. I don't. How much of this should I spoiler?
I do whatever you want, man.
Okay.
Do we? Well, let's go first. Do you recommend that people watch Sunrise?
I do. I mean, it's a very well-regarded movie. I definitely liked it quite a bit. I definitely recommend you watch it. I don't know. So
Unless you are here's my opinion. Unless you are a diehard Murnau fan, I mean, you don't have to.
yeah, no, I don't think it's like a. I mean, at least for me, it's not like you have to watch this, but it is a good movie. I definitely recommend
This
it.
movie is like critically acclaimed. I mean, people love this movie. So
Yeah.
I don't know what I was missing, but I'm not a big Sunrise guy.
Sunrise fan?
I found it. There's okay. Let me say first, there are I think 3 scenes that I thought, man, this is really good. Oh man, so cool. Or like really moving, or like wow, this feels really modern. And the rest of it, I was like, okay, I don't really care. It's kind of boring, kind of typical. With the exception of those 3 scenes, it just was not my thing. But yeah, you want to talk a bit about Julian?
Yeah. I'll go into spoilers. Basically, after he goes to try to kill his wife, and then he wimps out. He wimps out last second,
Chicken.
and then he chases his wife down, and they kind of spend the day together. And he sort of.
It's a weird scene.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even try to pretend like he's not going to kill his wife. He gets there and he does like a Frankenstein pose. And he goes, and then he's like, oh, no, I can't do it. And he just brings him back. But he chases after his wife, and they just look at each other for like a long time. They like go into a diner, and just like, they're just looking at each other.
You gonna kill me now?
He wasn't playing, bro. He didn't even try to hide it.
But sort of, we see him reconcile with his wife, and they become besties again.
Shoot me
It's
now
real
or wait till you
sweet.
get home.
They ruin traffic.
Yeah,
That's a great
exactly.
shot. That's a great shot, though. The two of them go, and all the traffic is stopping
And they
around
sort
them.
of have this romantic reconciliation where he realizes, I don't need this city woman. I can just love my wife.
Well, it's a
kill
wonderful.
her?
The marriage scene.
That's what we'll get.
The marriage scene is the other really. I think that was probably my favorite scene. That scene where they go to a church and they watch some people get married and they remember the greatness of their own love and that's really moving to me.
Well,
the whole sequence was really great.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say one of my favorite scenes as well was this peasant dance scene where, after capturing a runaway pig, he sort of does this beautiful dance with his wife. It's this. I think it's a Lithuanian folk dance actually.
I'm laughing at the folk dance. So for some reason, 1920s movies loved going to the circus.
Yeah.
Everyone goes to the circus. They go to the circus, or I mean,
Big
if
circus
it's not
fans.
a circus, I don't know what it is. They go to the amusement
Coney
park.
Island or something.
Yeah, where do they go? But they show up there and they have a game where carnival game. There's 3 targets, and each of them leads to doors where they keep little baby pigs, and you hit them, and the pig runs down this ramp. They like go down a slide, and then one of the pigs escapes this weird.
The pig ramp.
Yeah, the pig contraption. And he loves
A machine for
the
pigs.
girl's like asking like, "Oh, go dance with me," and he's like so invested in like, "I gotta get more pigs. I gotta
I got to the pig ramp.
get him down the slide. Get him down the slide." Okay.
Oh my god.
But then you have this crazy twist. He spends the day with his wife, and then he's like, "I will take you home and sail with you by moonlight."
That's the other great scene.
Does he sound like that? Well, he doesn't.
And he
It's not
does,
moving.
except then a storm comes and the boat gets turned over, and he gives he gave his wife these bulrushes that he originally saved for himself to stop himself from drowning when he was going to go drown his wife.
What does he...
Well, then he ends up on the shore.
So you're so invested.
He's alive, and there's this big search for his wife, and they can't find her. And they all think she's drowned. And then he sees the woman who he had the affair with, and she's like, "Oh my God, she drowned. Let's get married now." And then he like goes to choke her. But then one of the townswomen comes up to him and says she found his wife, and they did, and they live happily ever after.
Isn't like the last thing you see is the sunrise. I know that much, but then it's the thing that you see before that is like just a minute of some random old man explaining how he found the woman, and you're like, why did you end on this?
I think it's a movie that could have done way better with a more dark, less idealistic ending.
I guess so.
Because I feel like
I was expecting it to be that he drowns and she lives.
That'd be crazy.
Which kind of would make sense based on the description of.
Like, I think that would have fit. I just think it's a movie that's very befitting of a darker ending, except it feels like kind of ham-fisted and, okay, she's saved now and we're all happy.
There's some, the structure of this movie is as weird as possible. And I know some people love this about the movie, but for me it just didn't work. There's a whole movie arc. There's a movie arc in the first 30 minutes of just completing a whole character arc. Then you have 45 minutes of just hanging out. They're just going to places and like goofing off.
Just chilling.
And I can understand why some people like that. If I wanted a movie of goofing off, I would watch a movie that's all goofing off. This movie's not all goofing off. And so when it showed up, it's like, why do I care? What else is going to happen? I don't know. I don't care that they're getting their picture taken and that they're like, what else they do? I mean, they go to the dance. Oh, they get the barber. The barber scene is like really weird.
Eat a meal.
It's the most like melodrama
Also,
thing.
he should not have shaved because he looked so much better before he shaved with his like beard scraggle. Like.
But yes, I mean, the whole scene in the city is like really long, and it's like, why did you put that there? And why didn't
I think there's some really good bits, but I do agree that it
why didn't you
went on
put
too long.
why didn't you just remove shorten that to just the carnival, or why didn't you put the resolution in which the two like realize that they're in love again closer to before they leave? Because the conclusion, there's like a conclusion of the arc in like the first 30 minutes. So it's like, what am I still going here for? And then the ending is pretty good. It's a little. I think in the end it goes too long for my taste. But
well, anyway, yeah. No, I see what you mean.
So yeah.
I also think it's a movie with kind of interesting morals. A lot of people brand it as a humanist film, which I guess I see. I think it's almost a very conservative film in a way. You sort of see this man who's kind of corrupted by modern city life, by like the modern, more promiscuous woman, and like, but in reality, he should just go back to like his traditional country life, and that's like where his, where he should be and stuff.
Yeah.
But.
All right. Well, now we're going to talk about a movie.
Oh wait, one thing I want to mention. My favorite thing about Sunrise. The perspective and cinematography I felt were fantastic. There were these wonderful shots. Murnau somehow got these like beautiful shots in like low light and stuff that were just so consistent and like wonderfully made. You had these great shots with these like glass barriers. You had this like kind of funny editing where you'd have like ghost trains come.
Especially at the beginning of the movie, that little intro sequence is really cool.
And also, it's interesting how he played with perspective, because he would do kind of this like mega perspective type thing where, for instance, he'd have a room and then to make it look like it had more depth than it did, he would put smaller versions of the furniture descending and he would do stuff like that throughout the whole movie. And what was actually interesting, he at one point had little people just like stand in at a distance to try to make it seem like there was more perspective than there was, which I think, it's an interesting choice, if anything. But yeah.
All right, well, I think we are all excited, and I can't believe it's coming up so early, but we have to talk about our favorite movie. it's time for the jazz singer.
Great.
This movie.
We don't have to talk about this for very long.
Okay,
We didn't like this movie. It's boring. It's
Jazz singer
tawdry.
sucks. Okay, it's
This is the first talkie.
it's barely even like they sing, and there are some. They talk
There's
a little
few
bit.
songs.
They talk.
They
a little
talk
bit.
in singing sections.
Yes.
When they're singing, they can talk, but whenever they stop singing, they can't talk anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do blackface. It's not great.
And this was built on a system that that very quickly became outdated. It wasn't used very often. It was what was it? I think it was a gramophone-based system, and basically it was really inconvenient to use. So immediately people started using, soundtrack on film, which, although revolutionary at the time, couldn't hold that much data. So your choice is between, I'll just make it a silent film and then put a soundtrack on the movie, or I can what Universal quickly did, which is I can make people talk and just have no music.
Yeah.
But even then, it was expected that you might still have a live performance for the music. So that's why the Universal monster movies, when you watch them today, are really strange, is because it's almost all silent except for people talking. Because they just didn't have the room on the physical film to add both tracks.
But yeah. I still think it is somewhat of an interesting movie to examine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that other than the blackface, I think that it's just kind of an ad movie.
It's just
there's some interesting stuff going on. He has this plot with his dad, which was kind of interesting in a way, but in the end it just felt like a kind of very tropey tradition versus the new age plot, and I think that wasn't helped by the fact that the protagonist just kind of sucked. Nothing about him was interesting to me. His singing was lame.
Even if you take out the racism, it's still just not an interesting movie.
Yeah.
It's
I think there's one scene I think is particularly good, which is his dad dies and he sings at his funeral. But other than that, I think that there's not really too much going for it.
It was so boring. I folded my laundry and stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'd heard about the jazz singer from Singin' in the Rain, which is a great movie.
Oh, I love it. That's a wonderful.
Because that movie's about the rise of talkies and how that impacted cinema and silent film stars and everything, and they meant there's the jazz singer's a huge hit. We got to do talkies now, and it's you'd expect it to be a good movie that they were talking about.
No, the jazz singer.
It was just whoa, they're singing.
When we're talking
Whoa.
historically, this is
to be fair, I would lose my mind. I would be what?
I mean, this was a massive advancement, and but it wasn't even the first talking film, but it was the first commercially successful talking film. This film was a huge smash, made
some reason.
so much money. Talkies quickly became the medium of the day. This would be the last Oscars in which we would really see kind of things in a silent film era, because they would just very quickly get phased out in the next probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
The only, this year was the only year where a silent film won Best Picture.
I do believe that's correct. Quickly became invalid. And a lot of people, it's a really interesting theory, a lot of people claim that the invention of talkies was actually a con, because at this time, we were getting to what a lot of people saw, 1927 and 1928 is seen as a potential kind of gold age for silent film. It was getting the most advanced that it had been. Charlie Chaplin was innovating, and people were really understanding how to use the camera, how to use their bodies, when to use title cards. We were really seeing this art form really mature into something, and we see that with a lot of these amazing films. Things like Wings, things like Sunrise, if you like Sunrise. Things like
Passion of Joan of Arc.
Passion of Joan of Arc, The Circus.
And I mean, certainly, it wasn't an immediate, we're all doing talkies now shift, because I know Modern Times is silent. And
So,
that was
but
there is
that's-
the one singing
Charlie
scene.
Chaplin's an exception.
He's a very
He
big
He's
exception to
stuck
the rule.
with it way longer
Yeah,
than most people
I'm
were
not.
doing it.
Again, I'm not familiar entirely with the
Yeah,
whole
no,
thing.
it was actually.
And I realize I'm saying that Modern Times does have a a scene where he sings.
It was a dramatically fast transition. It's crazy how quickly it went. Charlie Chaplin was one of the few people who could survive making silent films.
Because he's great.
Yeah,
He doesn't need to talk.
Well, he's actually next.
Is he?
So yeah, let's talk about Charlie Chaplin. I think
Great.
we're all excited. The circus.
Circus!
We're going to the now. We're going to the circus.
circus.
We said no country hobos. No freaking no Speedy. It's us now.
And now we get to talk about a movie where we're all like, this rocks.
The
Are you
circus.
saying we don't all love a jazz singer?
Alex, do you want to describe the circus? What's the circus?
The circus is the Charlie Chaplin is a guy who's not doing very good, and he gets in a chase with the police when he accidentally steals a guy's wallet, and he ends up being the funniest dude in a circus that is not very funny.
Completely by accident.
It's like an evil ringleader.
It's a circus that's like just the worst circus. They're not fun. No one cares. And then he runs in and is tripping over himself, and everyone's howling with laughter. And this is the great bit when he first shows up and then leaves, and they're like, "Bring back the funny man! Bring back the funny man!"
The audience is great.
And they're like, "I don't know what to do."
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the little tramp, iconic
He's always a tramp.
Chaplin.
Little fella.
Little fella.
Chaplin, of course. I mean, we can just talk a little bit. He is, my favorite kind of person to come out of the silent film era. I've loved almost everything I've seen him in. I think he's just fantastic. He was a true Renaissance man.
So good.
He could do it all, and I'm not making, that's not BS, right? He really could do it all. And, the circus is a work that shows that. Modern Times is my favorite silent film. And I think The Circus is just another great, example of his, storied career. Taking that vaudeville background and figuring out how to turn that into what we see as film today. And we see it in dozens and dozens of righteously funny scenes. This film actually has a great dramatic heart as well.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Charlie Chaplin quickly falls in love with what is her job in the circus? She's the ring. Because they
does
used
the
that
thing.
shot 3 times
Yeah.
of her with the rings. Quickly falls in love, and her father is the ringleader, and he's very abusive.
He's so mean.
Cartoonishly abusive. His name is Al Ernest Garcia. Is the actor. I think he does an amazing job of being cartoonishly evil.
Yeah. And I think Charlie Chaplin was vehemently anti-capitalist, and I think you see some of this here as you sort of see this exploitative circus owner who really puts profit and like his own capitalist gain above like anyone else in the circus, and will just like relentlessly exploit these people as much as he can.
And there's a whole thing of just he doesn't understand what's funny.
Yeah.
Like the whole bit in the movie is like the circus. No one really cares about the circus, but Charlie Chaplin keeps being the hit because he just keeps making mistakes and falling over himself and ruining everything, and that's funnier than anything they're actually doing. And yeah, but every time the guy's like, "Oh, we'll just get him to do that again," and then it's like not as good.
The scene when Charlie is in that the magic trick where the person goes from one place to the other and he keeps showing up.
There's just animals coming out it's just like
There's also just a scene where he just starts randomly kicking this one clown over and over again.
He kicks him, leaves the room, goes back, kicks him, and it's like
he does kind of get taken over at one point by being the star, right?
Yeah.
His ego gets really big, so I guess that's why he's kicking the clown, because he's like, I can, I'm the guy.
I have the power.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. You're already seeing an underlying cynicality of this kind of the entertainment industry, right? Of taking sad stories and then trying to churn them out for all they're worth and only seeing them for value rather than personality. I definitely think analogies can be made between the little tramp's journey in the circus and the entertainment industry itself. The way that it abuses these kind of caged birds or takes people to massive heights and then abandons them with nothing.
Yeah.
We want to talk about some of the funny scenes?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a favorite bit.
Oh, God. So I think I will have to say, it's pastiche. You know what? No. Well, the funniest scene is the lion scene.
Yeah, I was going to talk about
That's
that.
for sure.
I agree.
Lion's great.
But I think the best scene is the tightrope walking scene.
Yeah.
And
no, definitely.
I've heard before people say that, Charlie Chaplin, as a performer, his gift was in making the incredibly difficult scene accidental.
I was gonna say it was his big pants, but that works too.
He does
But
have great big pants.
The tightrope scene is so funny. It's dramatic. I was going, I felt like I was there. It's the way he shoots it, the way he performs it.
Biting his nose.
Hey, the monkeys get him. We talk with slapstick. You don't see it as much, but with this movie, it is such direct setup, payoff, setup, payoff.
Yeah.
He really understands the form of comedy itself.
Yeah.
Callbacks, setup, payoff. You're really just gonna.
And he has such a perfect stage presence. The little tramp is just such a perfect character who just is so pathetic and just goofy and keeps messing up in the most perfect, funniest ways, and
He
it's
never does
really
anything
wonderful.
right.
Yeah.
The way he tips his hat at anyone, he tips his hat to himself while he's in the mirror maze, and he tips his hat to the
mirror
chicken.
maze is great.
The mirror. Oh my god.
I don't know how they filmed that.
That whole beginning chase scene is fantastic.
I almost forgot it happened, but it's really, really
I love that part when he's pretending to be the robot on the arc, and then he makes that so dumb. But it's so great. Oh, and there's that scene when it's such a dumb thing, but it's a great pre-establishment of there's a baby eating a pastry, and Charlie just starts eating it. And when the dad turns around, he takes the napkin and he wipes the baby's face.
Oh my god.
Why? What did you think the funniest scene was? You the lion?
I'm gonna talk about the lion specifically. At the end of that scene, when the door opens to the cage, and he's I don't know what it is. He's like, oh, I'm not. This isn't so bad.
The big
I'm
tough guy.
I'm a tough guy.
It sniffs. It wakes him up and sniffs him down, and then it goes back to sleep. So it's I love him.
He goes to the lion, and the lion I don't know if it roars or gets up, and then he zooms
that sped up running
out so fast. It's one of my favorite silent film, especially comedy things, is when they just speed up the footage to make it funnier.
Yes.
It works every time. And also he runs up a pole.
We have to say, when we're talking about that lion scene, I think the best joke in that scene is when there's a little hatch and he opens it up to escape because he gets locked in this trailer with the lion. He's sleeping. He's trying to escape. He opens a hatch to the next trailer, and a live tiger is just sitting there going, "Rah!" He immediately shuts the gate.
and then he's like, "Oh, did I wake the lion?"
It seems so funny. A dog attacks him for no reason. Just hates him. Julian, what's your favorite scene for the circus?
Okay, not really from a funny standpoint, but I thought the ending was so good. Mama! I don't know, the ending really broke my heart. Spoilers.
Spoilers for the circus.
Yeah, spoilers from a circus.
We would all recommend you watch.
Yes, very strongly.
Watch the circus. It's great.
It's free on YouTube, I think.
I actually found it on HBO Max.
I watched it on HBO Max too.
I watched it on YouTube.
It was weird seeing the Criterion thing for HBO Max.
Yeah, and it's only what? This is the shortest feature, I think. No, this is the second shortest feature we talk about. It's only 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, the ending, so he loses his job, and as a result, the circus owner's daughter also gets kicked off and
Well, no, she quits.
She quits. Yeah.
Yeah, because the circus
And
guy
then-
is real mean.
And then he sees that he loves her, but he ends up.
Well, she's in love with a tightrope walker.
Yeah, she's in love with a tightrope walker, and so he sees that, and he sees that she'll have a better life with a tightrope walker. So he gives his engagement ring that he was planning to give to her to the tightrope walker.
He gets married to the tightrope walker.
Yeah. And then oh no.
But I told the truth.
It took me a second.
It's a complex love triangle. I'm married to somebody I don't love because the woman I love loves him.
And then you sort of see them married, and he just sort of sits there all sad, and it's
And all the things are going up there. The circus
it's
is leaving.
Yeah, it's
He's just
damn,
in a
this
dirt
this
circle.
poor fella.
Well, yeah, because the circus owner betrays him, doesn't he? He sets all the carriages off before Charlie Chaplin can get in.
Yeah.
Is that what happens? I didn't
I
notice that.
believe so, because he says the last carriage is for you, right? So I think he wants Chaplin to come back to the circus, but then
Because they're all on board with him.
He goes like, "Ugh!" And then all the carriages leave, and he just watches them go. And he's like that amazing final shot. He's just looking at this like star, the leftover like hoop that you used to jump through, and then he just has to leave. He's in like the middle of the desert, nowhere else to go. Yeah. Another tramp adventure.
On the topic of the tightrope walker, there's also a great when he's first introduced. There's a great bit where he's doing his whole tightrope walking stunt thing. And they're in the back like watching, and she's all excited, and he's just like,
oh yeah. He's like, I hope he dies.
Yeah. And then he does like one tiny little mess up, and he like bursts out like roaring.
He's like cackling whenever he does something wrong. And it's like right at the end, he like claps a little bit like on the side. It's like, oh, you liked it. But
when he does that jig on the tightrope with like his leg, and like he's just kicking around, like it's crazy. Also, I think Julian's Oscar has leaned more and more.
It's gonna be gone.
Gravity is bringing
it's
it.
fine.
Gravity is bringing it down.
It's a leaning tower of Oscar.
And it wears you down. Okay.
He's great.
All right.
Well, we'd all recommend The Circus.
Yeah,
Our next exciting film is one I think we'll have a little bit of a kerfuffle about. October, 10 Days That Shook the World.
I don't think
Another one I haven't seen. So.
I think you're overstating how much I think you think I dislike this movie more than I do.
I don't want to straw man you. So Sergei Eisenstein's contribution, we talked about him when we talked about Soviet montage cinema, a film made for the 10-year anniversary of the October Revolution. Sergei Eisenstein, renowned for a lot of things. He was a very multifaceted, director. When you look at, compare this movie, October, 10 Days That Shook the World, and the precision of Ivan the Terrible Part 1. Two very different styled movies. Mm-hmm. Both coming from the same guy in the same kind of propaganda sphere.
Yeah.
But
all of his films are very overt propaganda. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah. It's really obvious. But I love this movie. I think this movie is just awesome. I think everything about it feels the most modern of any of the movies that I saw. I think the editing works so well for me. The whole thing is so dynamic. It's creative. It's original. It's such a unique way to present things in a year. We talk about when the talkies came around, cameras literally got heavier, and it got harder to record sound at the same time. So cameras would move less and less. And so you look at, what a tragedy when you're talking about something like this film, where things are so intricately constructed and portrayed. Everything about it is really just, I think, near top notch. There might be like a minor pacing issue, but even then, when I thought back about it, that section of the movie was still good. I think this movie is one of the ones that I thought the most about.
Okay. I totally understand that. My perspective is, I think there's definitely some really well done bits. Some of these shots are really stunning, just the fact that, I don't know, it has so much scale and epicness to it.
Very spectacular, very spectacle.
I think that's what the movie has going the best for it. There's these stunning battle scenes and just scenes of just stuff happening of this revolutionary fervor. I think actually my biggest issue with the movie was something that a lot of people love Sergei Eisenstein for, which is the editing. I felt this movie cut so much, literally would not hold a scene longer than 3 seconds.
This is true.
The amount of cuts, I think, affected my enjoyment of the movie negatively. I just felt like it was going at such a fast pace where it just felt kind of convoluted, and I had trouble understanding what was going on, and that personally affected my enjoyment of it. And I don't want this to seem like I hated the movie, because I'd say I liked it more than I disliked it, but it definitely felt impeding to my enjoyment of it.
The energy, the editing for me is building the energy that pushes the movie forward. You're like a fireball as you run through this Soviet history. It's crazy. Everything is up to 10. The whole thing is mental. The whole thing is so sensationalist. It is not true, but it is so awesome of saying like, all right, this is Lenin, and here's all the people are cheering, they're cheering, and here's the Provisional Guard, they're coming, they're smashing down, now they're at war, it's crazy. The whole thing is such an energy that you're just thrown through the whole thing, and I couldn't help but leave with a big smile across my face.
Could you give me like a plot rundown, because I have no context?
Yeah, so this is not a very plotted movie. Really, it starts with the rise of the provisional government, which after the Tsar abdicated because the people were all like, "Hey man, you suck." She's like, "Okay,
stinks.
I'll let this provisional government in." And Sergei Eisenstein, he's so mean to the provisional government. It's so funny because he's the title cards. I love the title cards.
Oh yeah,
they're so funny.
The repetition of like traitor, enemy, Bolshevik.
I mean, they have such a way of presenting stuff. It's exciting, it's invigorating, the big, thick text, and it gets bigger and bigger. You go, wow! And it's never overused, if you ask me. And sometimes the title cards are just so funny. So there's like a scene where the provisional government, the head of the provisional government, he's coming over and he's like shaking hands with all like the czarists, and like he's going to meet the czar, and it just says, "Wow, what a Democrat!" He's like shaking hands with all these guys.
For a lot of scenes of just these like czarists and like other people just like laughing.
Like, oh my god! I mean, at the end of the movie, they're all like sitting around getting drunk, and like you see the revolution going outside. They're not even like paying attention.
Like they win the revolution, and you just see this guy falling asleep in his chair, and Lenin starts talking, and then he wakes up, and he's like, "Oh, what?" And then he starts clapping.
Well, yeah, and there's some guy who's like, "The army is not with you. Nobody is with you." And then there's just some guy who sits there and just goes, "Wrong, liar, liar, you're lying." And then everyone goes, "Yeah!"
Nuh-uh.
And then, oh my god, the end of the movie is insane. And the end of the spectacle, it's unbelievable. All those people rushing into the big thing, and I think he sped it up. I think he sped up the people running through.
He definitely did.
But it's crazy.
There were hundreds of people there, just like.
I don't know how he got so many extras, but they're all running in. They're all fucking crazy. The whole thing, God, it's just insane. And I have to give a special shout out to the scene. There is a scene where, God, this is too confusing for me to understand because I'm not an expert on Soviet history. A provisional government defector attempted to take over the Bolshevik Party. He goes to wage war on them. It's the best scene in the movie. And a big title card that comes up and it says, quote, "In the name of God and motherland."
Yeah.
And he hates it so much. He gets so mad about this that, you can tell Eisenstein was fuming behind the film. Because he starts editing together all these like religious figures and all these like these cultural.
Oh, that was the best part of the movie. In my opinion.
Then you see them all going to war. It's crazy. It's bazoomy. The provisional government guy, he has like 2 pillows to his ear. He's like hiding. He's like scared. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
he's hiding under the bed.
The use of these like traditional figures and stuff, and like the peacocks and stuff like that. I think that was my favorite part.
I wrote here on my notes, likes playing with toys.
Indeed.
And there's that great scene. This is just like pure experimentation. That whole "In God and Motherland" sequence, where it's just saying like God, 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 and then you see like pictures of different religious iconography, and you see what does motherland mean to them, right? It means bourgeoisie society. It means the upper crust. It doesn't mean the people. It means this like weird amalgamation of what Russia is. And that scene, he's like playing chess with liquor bottles, and he sticks them all together and puts a crown on them. Is wow. You just, I can't help but love this kind of stuff. So there's my rant about October, 10 Days That Shook the World. I couldn't recommend this movie enough. And yeah, do you have anything else to say before we move on?
No.
Okay, well, turns out it is my turn to go solo. We're talking about The Last Command.
Oh.
This won Best Actor.
I think the guy in the poster looks fun.
Yeah, Emerald Jennings. He won it for... at this point in the Oscars, you could win an award for nothing in particular,
Just
a
for
movie,
being cool.
or multiple movies. Yeah. I believe the guy who won Best Title Card Writing, I think he won it for just career. And there's a couple, we forgot to mention, there's a couple honorary awards. I think, oh God, do you remember what production company made The Jazz Singer? Was it Warner?
I think it was.
There was a thing in the corner.
Yeah.
At every title card. So
they won an honorary award for being revolutionary in the employment of sound, and Charlie Chaplin, the winner, the people thought that he would win too many awards, so they nominated him and then they just gave him an honorary award to say like, good job, but we can't let you win every category.
Last
Charles.
of Us Part 2.
The Last Command, though, is a really, really good one. Emerald Jennings plays a former czarist who, I think he's a cousin of the czar. He ends up as an extra in a production of about the Russian war film. And it's really a great picture. It's a real character picture about Emerald Jennings, central character. Some really moving stuff in there. Some really interesting characterization. It's definitely an opposed portrait to October the 10th Took the World. It doesn't like the Tsar, but it doesn't like the Soviets either. The Soviets are a bunch of violent drunkards in their version of the movie. But definitely the Tsar is not honored either. And Emerald Jennings' character is really interesting, and the ending itself is insane. I recommend this movie, but the ending itself, Emerald Jennings earlier, he finds this this traitor to the nation, right? And he's like, throw him in jail. The guy escapes jail. And we don't see him until the end of the movie. And it turns out the guy who's directing Emerald Jennings is that guy. And he puts him in a war scene to kind of make fun of him. He recreates the moment in which Emerald Jennings hit him across the face. And then Emerald Jennings is like, oh, he's freaking out because he starts having delusions. And then he has a heart attack and dies. But it's such a good movie. The ending is really incredible, especially when you see it in perspective with the rest of the movie. Emerald Jennings is really good. So I got to recommend it. It's also interesting kind of perspective on nationalism and how that has changed. Because nowadays, it's weird, it's kind of shifted, whereas Emerald Jennings' character could be awarded in the past for caring so much about this idea of nationalism. Nowadays, we see him as an almost tragic figure because of this kind of the way he was kind of dissuaded by nationalism. He was kind of seduced by nationalism. Sorry, dissuaded is not the right word. All right. So let's move on from The Last Command. Speedy! Yes! Time for Speedy!
Speedy!
Now,
Speedy. I'm just really excited.
Can I say Speedy, the first half is good? No. Can I say Harold Lloyd is very funny? No. Can I say that that the cinematography is very good? Not really. Can I say the score is very good? Not really. Is Speedy, in my heart, always the winner? Yeah. I love Speedy. When you watch Speedy, it's a transformation. Harold Lloyd, we were lucky that we picked a year in which there was three films from all three big silent era comedians. They were the biggest stars of the day. Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, and Charlie Chaplin. We'll talk about Buster later. We talked about Charlie already. So now it's Harold's time. Harold, in my opinion, and people will get mad at me, maybe, the Harold stands will come out. Harold Lloyd is not that funny. He didn't really get it ever, I don't think. And halfway through Speedy, something snaps, and he figures out how to be funny, and he is funny as hell. He is an absolute riot. The second half of Speedy, watching Speedy is worth it, if only for the second half, which is incredible. Some of my favorite silent comedy scenes that I've seen. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's spectacular, it's dumb, it's hilarious.
Awesome.
It's a riot. I mean, old men in cricket bats beat up monsters. I mean, what do you want over a taxi cab that then hits a road bump and gets flown off the wheels. So it's just like a house. I mean, he just finally, something goes in his head, and he understands how to construct a slapstick joke. And there's something else about, this is the last thing I'll say about this. The turn of Harold Lloyd, you kind of root for Harold Lloyd because you know he's kind of a loser. Not even in his characters, but the poor guy is just kind of he's been forgotten. He's not that good at comedy. You're just kind of like, man, Harold, I really wish you could do it.
Until a few months ago, I did not know Harold Lloyd existed.
And suddenly, he gets up the hill, He crosses the crest, and he understands how to do comedy, and so it's even more than, I see Chaplin be funny. I already thought he was funny, right? I don't expect Chaplin to be unfunny. But I don't expect Harold Lloyd to be funny. So when he just snaps into being one of the all-time greats in some of these scenes, it's like, what the heck happened here? Who did this? I'm not sure if it's Harold.
How did we get here?
But you're rooting for him. You go, Speedy, be funny. And he is. What do you want to say about Speedy?
This is the meanest compliments I've ever heard.
He did it.
He did it.
Speedy's such a weird movie. There's a scene where he goes to Coney Island with his girlfriend, and
favorite joke.
a crab just falls into his pocket.
Whoa.
And then,
wait, I'm sorry. But it's really good. He knocks the crab over. So you say, okay, that's going to be it. He picks the crab up, gives it back, then knocks the crab into his pocket. They did a whole loop to get there. The crab being in his pocket.
but then he just goes on with this bit of 10 minutes. And the bit, get this, the bit is the crab, which is in his pocket, reaches out its claw and bites various people on the butt. It goes with this joke
Such a lame
for
joke.
10 minutes.
Does it steal a woman's underwear?
Yeah, he steals a woman's underwear, and a bunch of people think that he's a bunch of women think he's grabbing their asses, but it's just this crab.
They have the finger. This movie has the finger in it, and you didn't think in 1927 they have the middle finger as the finger. They do it. Apparently they had it back then because he does it. Does it to himself. He gets mad at himself in the mirror. You can't do it. We'll ban you. Oh my God, though, it's so funny. It's really just. Oh, also Babe Ruth is in the movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Speedy's whole thing is that he's a huge sports fan.
He's obsessed with baseball, and
he can't stop betting on baseball.
DraftKings.
His father-in-law wants him to get a
That's
job,
not
but he's
baseball,
too obsessed with baseball.
He keeps losing his job because he does baseball stuff. The first scene is actually pretty funny. He's using pastries to show the baseball score because these people have been gambling, and he eats part of a pretzel to make a 3. He's putting it in the thing because he's on the phone too. He's a mixologist, but he gets fired because he sucks. He goes to the baseball game.
Oh my God.
He drives Babe Ruth around really fast, and he keeps looking back, and he's not looking where he's going. I don't know how they filmed that, but he keeps almost hitting cars and dying. And Babe Ruth is weird because he keeps going Speedy, look at the road, go faster. And it's why would you? You can't ask both of those things at the same time. That doesn't make sense. You need to ask one over the other. And then when he gets out of the car, one of the best title cards of this whole thing we saw was he goes. Well, Speedy, if I don't want to commit suicide, I'll just call you.
That's so good. Oh
yeah.
my God.
So, Speedy, can't recommend it enough. We all love Speedy.
It's funny. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay. Next we gotta talk some boring movie called Joan of Arc, The Passion of Joan of Arc.
Dumb movie.
This movie has cool shots of faces.
Who wants to start this one?
Let's.
I could. I don't know where to start. I thought this movie was really. It's definitely the most of the ones I've seen from the ones we've gone through. This is the one where it is the most actually dramatic. Everything else is a little goofy. This one is just all the way serious, and it's so intense, and I don't know what I'm saying.
It's really proven by that.
I also
ending.
think that if out of all the movies we've seen, if it came out today, I think it would fit the most in today's modern movie landscape.
Definitely. That or Wings, but for entirely different reasons. I don't know the name of the person who plays Joan of Arc.
Maria Falconetti.
That person, she has some really crazy facial expressions.
Oh my God, yeah.
Most of the movie, she's just eyes wide, looking like she's just seen a ghost. And kinda.
Her performance is really.
It's actually interesting because.
And it's just such a strong image.
Yeah.
And gives so much weight to her as a character.
Well, so much of this movie is just her face.
Yeah.
But while we had these face shots, the director would build these elaborate sets around her because he thought that that would evoke specific emotions that we could see in her face, but we wouldn't even be seeing the sets.
Well, this is
so that's pretty
also
interesting.
we're talking about Carl Theodor Dreyer here. Dreyer, a very renowned director. Is he from Belgium?
He's Danish, right?
All right, he's Danish. All right, we're getting
Somewhere
confirmation
in
from
there.
Dan. He's Danish, and he did a handful of films. I mean, this is his big one. He also did, Ordette, Vampires. He had a talking one called Gertrude, which was
Apparently
really
that
good.
was really good.
Yeah. So I mean, he's pretty renowned for his contributions, and you definitely see why. I mean, this movie is just crazy. There's so many. I mean, for me, some things about this kind of discussion over like religion and the role of that are a little bit dated and just don't always prove the most interesting material to me. But I mean, the ending, you can't help but say that is one of the defining scenes.
It's
of the
so
Silent Era.
like, I keep trying to think of words. I don't have it, but it's just this like, what am I looking for here? I don't even.
Well, spoiler alert: they light her on fire.
It's history.
So
It happened. It's not really.
I mean, you go from such pristine tragedy to this massive anger and
There's
drama.
when she dies, there's someone who in the crowd who just says, "You just killed a saint" or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
Like just like the church being like, "Oh, we did it, we killed her," and the crowd just being like, "No."
And I also think it's important to mention how greedy and gross and just disgusting and like straight up evil the clergy are portrayed as in this. You just have these like grimiest, most like disgusting looking guys just like putting out this like evil on Joan of Arc,
And
and
there's-
and you have these face shots of just
It's like, eh.
They're tricking her. They're torturing her. They're the torture wheel.
Yeah.
And like they're mocking her with that crown. I mean, that represents this kind of this faith and innocence that is just destroyed and trampled on. These kind of people consumed by kind of logic and dogma that just can't see outside of themselves. They just trample anything that stands in the way of the defined way of things. I mean, that's a narrative that will keep forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's such a strong like power in her having all these people like shouting at her and like trying to get her to believe that things she doesn't believe and all that, and she's just standing like, no. She is so like strong, consistent throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's at one point she does like sign the thing to admit that she was like lying and whatever, and then later she's like, wait, give me that back. That's not true.
Take that back.
I was serious.
She has that.
And when she signs that, it's like, okay, we're not going to kill you now. But then she goes back on it knowing they will kill her just because she doesn't want to not be truthful.
I think she sees them, sweeping up to like throw away this kind of crown that she's made while she has been imprisoned. That was before played as a thing of mockery by these cruel dogs, and is now seen as a thing of power, right? This faith in self, and knowledge that one must do the right thing, must stand for what they actually think, and getting literally crucified for that.
Yeah. And the scene where she's burning is rough. Like,
and the scene before that too, when they're digging her grave, that's a really hard scene too, and that shot really fantastically.
Also, the scoring we watched it with was fabulous.
Yeah.
You had this kind of like Baroque-esque like church music with just like this singing and just this like swelling, powerful orchestra with these like voices, and it's really fabulous.
It's so much of the movie. Like, I don't think you could have it without that.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the most kind of key shots of any of these films, when she's burning, there's a scene of a baby breastfeeding, and that symbol of life that is destroyed, right? What are we giving to the future when we destroy people who are resisting the means of things, right? Mm-hmm. Just the price of that destruction of innocence, trampling on that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. There's Joan of Arc.
Definitely go watch Joan of Arc.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's so good.
For sure.
Oh, it's Owl's turn. It's Steamboat Bill.
We're going all the way in the other direction, back to slapstick. This one, I think I mentioned before, I saw this at the Somerville Theater, unexpectedly, but really, really fun time. I think if you've seen anything of Buster Keaton, it's probably a shot from this movie where there's a house in front of him and it falls down.
That's in this film?
He's right in the window. That's in this movie.
Oh, okay.
That or like something with the train in the General, which I also saw there that day, but we're not talking about that. No one cares about the General. Steamboat Bill, it starts simple. It's just there's two guys with steamboats. One of them is like this rich guy, he's got a real fancy boat, and the other one, his boat sucks. And they hate each other. And Steamboat Bill Jr. is the son of the guy with the suck-ass boat. And he comes over, he just graduated college or whatever, and he's going to work on the boat. And he's got like this little romance going with him and the daughter of the rich guy. And that's of course, there's some tension there. Neither of them really want their kids with each other. And it's the first half of the movie is just like him tripping over himself. Like there's a bit that is my favorite visual gag in the whole thing, where he accidentally knocks what do you call them? The little
I don't know.
lifesaver things.
A buoy?
One of those. He knocks one of those off the boat, and it lands in the water and just slowly sinks. it's so funny. I don't know why that bit just gets me so hard. It's such a good joke. And like, there's also like frequently like half of the jokes in the first half are just people getting kicked into the water. It's great. There's one bit with like a bar. Oh, there's one bit with his dad is like getting him a new hat, and he keeps trying to hats, and it's never working, and he keeps trying on this one hat, and he's like puts it on, and then he sees him, takes it off, and then he puts it on, and he's like trying to act cool, and he just sees him again, takes it off, and then he finally gets a good hat, and then it blows away.
Yeah, I've seen that doing it blowing away. I've seen that.
But and then the movie gets crazy at the end when just a massive windstorm happens. And the entire town is getting blown apart. Jesus. And it's like, how did we get here? And that's where the house falls down, and like, I think he's like in a hospital or something. He's in someplace, and just the whole thing flies away. He's just in the bed. He's like, oh. And then the climax is his father's in a jail cell. There's a great scene with his father in a jail cell too, where he's like trying to sneak him in stuff to get out, a loaf of bread, and it falls out. But he's in the jailhouse, and it's flooding, and he's trying to save him and save the girl in the boat and whatever. But before that, there's a scene that made me lose my mind of just like shock, where to not blow away, he climbs onto a tree and just grabs the trunk, and the tree uproots and starts flying around. And I was sitting there in the theater just like, what? Huh? What is happening? And it was, oh my god, it's such a fun movie.
Yeah.
It really ramps up. Like,
and would you say you liked it better or worse than the cameraman? I mean, the general.
Well, the general unexpectedly was like Confederate propaganda.
Well, yeah, right.
But I cannot deny that there are the things they do on that train are genius. But I think overall I enjoyed Steamboat Bill more. Also, it wasn't like a live orchestra or anything, but there was a guy doing live music with it, which was fun. During the general, he kept playing like a evil version of Yankee Doodle, and it was really funny.
Did you? How would you say that Steamboat Bill Jr. stacks up to the circus?
I think I like it. I think I prefer Steamboat Bill.
Oh, really?
It's
kind of controversial take.
The circus is great, but Steamboat Bill Jr. is just so packed with bits. It's like nonstop, and all of them are funny. like
the second half of Speedy.
Like the second half of Speedy. I gotta watch that at some point. But like just overall, like I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great to hear. Our next film, because we're getting down to it. Don't you worry. Hold on to your seats. Oh, we're at the end here. We are talking about the seashell and the clergyman. So this is our only female director. Of course, female directing came around pretty late.
Wasn't it the Peasant Woman of Rysson?
We didn't watch it.
But
you didn't watch it.
We didn't watch it.
But that was a female director, right?
There was other female directors that existed.
Okay, anyway, sorry.
We have to watch them.
Okay. This is the only female director we saw.
So sad.
Her name is Germaine Dulac. She was French. She directed a couple, I think, like bigger melodrama features that are not very well regarded, but she is remembered more for her occasional experimental work. She actually predates Louis Buñuel and Un Chien Andalou, which is seen as kind of the breaking point and kind of inception of experimental cinema as we know it. But Germaine Dulac kind of beat him to it. She made this film, and this film is awesome. It's about
a clergyman.
It's about a clergyman.
There are things that happen in it.
It's a clergyman who is creating liquors. He's creating potions, and a general comes in and breaks his seashell, and he gets really, really mad. So he's chasing this guy around, trying to strangle the general, but soon gets lost in a web and eventually decides to settle down and marry. And becomes a very powerful figure.
This is like I saw this movie, and you're like, this is all new information.
It's not a very plot-focused movie.
It's
and
definitely
what is
not.
there is delivered very not directly.
Yeah, I think this is an incredible film.
I completely agree.
I can't speak.
I think I need to see it again when I'm not on a Discord call with awful Wi-Fi.
Sure. But God, everything about this movie is miles ahead of what you would expect to be happening at this time in history.
I remember just seeing the poster, and I was like, oh, that's already like really striking.
That's right, like a remake poster. But
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's
even
still
that
shot from the movie.
It's So I mean, the framing and lighting of the whole thing is insane. The cinematography is revolutionary. The editing is kind of mind-blowing when you see some of this stuff.
Oh my God, yeah.
Specifically, there's a scene in a dance hall in which I believe the film gets slowed down and sped up, and there's some great shots in there, and everyone like vanishes from the dance hall. It's crazy. There's some other editing that's just, oh my God, immaculate, of fading certain things over other things, placing people in the corner of shot,
There's this like shot with this like boat where like, I forget.
The one where he's coming up on the big island?
Yeah. And just...
He's kind of having this like wet dream of this big, powerful island.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I'll talk about how I interpret the film. This is only from the first time seeing it, right? So, we can't speak. I'm no god. It really feels like this discussion, this treatise on the suppression of desire within modern society. This kind of fiction, and you could see it from the perspective of Germaine Dulac being a woman. There is something kind of homosexual about the whole movie.
Yay.
But there's definitely this underlying current of the clergyman has these suppressed desires that in a world, when I think about the general, right, who shows up, this military man, number one, he represents conformity. He's so stuffed up, his neck is like being crushed under like his big collar. He's so stuck up, he stands with absolute posture, he has a giant sword that looks like a penis. He is the masculine model of what you have to be. And he is the representation of societal, like, get married, do job. Don't do anything else. Don't do art. Don't dance. We only have straight sex. And so he is choking this desire that is felt by the clergyman, and that anger and aggression that comes out of that, as well as a thirst, right? An unquenchable hunger for more and more. First, it's just violence. Then it's, a sexual desire, looking and chasing after women. And next, it's like a power, right? I want to be that guy. I want to be the general. I want to have the seashell, and I want to have 12 maids lined up around me, because the ending shot is really telling. 12 maids lined up around him. Now he has conformed to this identity, right? He's like, he traps his wife in like a shell, right? Not a shell, but like a bottle. He has his wife, right? He consumes her, and then the last shot of the movie is crazy. He has the seashell full of liquid, and in it is him. You can see his face, and he drinks himself. That's the final thing you see. But this all-consuming hunger and power, right, dreaming of that island, right, or dreaming of conquering, we see a lot of kind of natural imagery, which is crazy in that scene when he's chasing the general, and they get to the outside world, right? And there's a bunch of like smoke and stuff, and they're on like a cliffside. The general, like, there's that scene where he keeps falling into those flames.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But consumption, control over everything, and how that consumes, he literally consumes himself. He literally eats himself in this desire for more and more and more. And that's all based on the inception that desire is suppressed and ignored. And you can see that in some, like, there's a woman, boobs are out in the movie, which is like crazy thing, like 1927. Technically, you see Clara Bow's boobs in Wings. You can.
Not really.
You can.
A little bit.
If you slow it down, you can.
It's covering them though.
Not really.
Well, this
Just try.
Seashell and Clergyman is a French film, right?
Yes. So
Yeah,
of course,
I imagine there are far less strict film censors in France than
Sure,
in
but even
America.
then, like,
They
just
love
from this
boobs
era,
in
you wouldn't
France.
expect just boobs out, full frontal.
I was surprised. I was like, they can do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the shell, right? Because now he's moving from desire of desire of violence to desire of sex. I can't say enough about. I can't sing this film's praises enough. This film is the shortest that we watched, probably only like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But go,
Definitely.
watch it.
I think it's also really funny to mention the scoring.
Yo, I was about to talk about that. Be careful.
Yes. The first version that pops up when you Google this movie has the worst scoring. This film has this like...
It is rough.
Yeah. This film has this really like dark, like surreal kind of tones. And the scoring's just like, it's all over the place.
There was one scene. I want you to imagine a out-of-tune guitar with like half the
ukulele,
strings.
not even a guitar.
An out-of-tune ukulele with half the strings missing or broken, and a dog is just walking over it.
Yeah.
And that's how they made the music.
This is during
I
an
don't know
intense
who
strangling
made. I don't know
scene.
who made that.
Oh my
But
God! It's that crazy scene.
I'll strangle them. Like, I don't know who did that, but why?
The general is with his wife in a confession booth, and you can see it's painted on, but it's frame by frame, stop motion. A big line appears across his head. His head cracks, but then the film, his head splits in half, like editing, by the magic of editing. I don't know how they did it, but it was like, what? You can do that? It's like 1927. You can do that? So yeah, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Seashell and the Clergyman.
My takeaway from this movie was mostly, I didn't get that, but it was kind of cool. But I'm definitely going to watch that again at some point to try and understand it a little more. But
Also, back to the scoring. If you do want to watch this, I forget the exact. Do you remember?
In Nursery.
Yeah, there's a version with scoring by In Nursery, which is this like contemporary group that does a lot of scoring for old silent films, and it is so much better. I think it was some of my favorite scoring we had. It was this
Very ambient
if
based.
you're going if you want to like have the vibe of the time period, it doesn't really work. But if you just want like good music, to play over it.
Well, I mean, it's very
It's
fitting.
like
It's
surreal,
good, really good,
psychedelic,
just like
ambient.
It's
We
a-
said ambient at the
yeah.
same
It's a
time.
fantastic way of framing the film,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And I really, really enjoyed that as
You're
an
not
accompaniment.
intruding on it, but you're giving it those emotions and you're giving it that space to really breathe and
Yeah.
send out this message that really, I don't know. I love early experimental
It,
cinema.
it felt much more like it was communicating the feeling that the movie itself was going for.
Definitely.
And this movie, I want to say one last thing, because I don't often say this about movies. There's only a few that I think have really done this, but this movie feels like a dream. This flows like a dream. You're like,
Yeah.
what the hell, But this really does capture that feeling in such a special way. I think part of that is a sort of like weird, like ethereal, kind of mysterious nature to silent film that like Guy Madden uses a lot, but something that's really kind of dream-like about it.
Wow.
Well, we are going to give out these little guys that we want to thank. We already
Mine totally isn't broken.
these little Oscar fellas. We've printed them out at the Fab Lab. So thank you very much to Alex and Atticus for helping those out. Before we do so, though, we are going to do kind of like the Oscars does. We're going to give out a couple specific awards before announcing what our personal best films of the year are. Starting with. Oh, I don't know why we put this one first. Do you want to do worst picture first to get this stupid award?
Sure.
out?
Jazz singer.
Jazz singer. Worst one we saw. It's
Well,
probably
then-
not the worst movie of the year, but out of the
Someone's
ones
probably
we've
done
seen.
worse, but
I mean, Sunrise is boring, but like the jazz singer is like, why would you even do it?
he just like left for half the movie. Like it was really funny actually.
Why would you even go? Okay, best editing.
Ooh, this is.
I'm gonna give my answer because I think I already kind of have an answer. October 10 Days That Took the World is editing to the max. This is the legacy of what editing can be. It is a show of the nature of the importance of editing, and it is experimentation achieved through editing and making a unique film vision that would not exist if it were not edited in the style it is.
I'd say mine might go to Passion of Joan of Arc. I felt that the editing really felt perfect and really just made this such a perfectly paced movie with like this that I think so effectively depicted her story and her ultimate demise, and it really just I think was very befitting and perfect.
Do you have any opinions?
I don't think about editing very often.
So your answer is Wings!
No, I think I'm gonna also give it to Joan of Arc.
Okay.
I think there was some really cool stuff there.
All right, this one's kind of a unique one. Best time capsule. It is a thing. It doesn't have to be one of the movies. It doesn't even have to be a scene. But a certain thing that we noticed that we said, oh man, that was really interesting to see, like this really old kind of thing. I think, I don't mean to steal this as somebody else's, but I have a couple. But I really love that scene in Wings when they're in the boxes, the weird like
Yeah, the
air training
turning things?
circle boxes.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I will have to commend Sunrise for the pig throwing game. That's a really good one. But my number one is obviously Speedy. He goes to Coney Island, and you would not believe what the hell Coney Island used to look like. I mean, it's amazing the way it's shot. It's like, what the heck is this place? It's really, and that scene kind of stinks technically. But the way that Coney Island looks is just so insane that it makes it like good. And
Yeah.
Coney Island is
That
cool.
was also gonna be mine. So
You see some of their crazy games and stuff. Do you have any time capsules?
I went into it a bit before, but there's a thing that a lot of films from this era did that you don't see anymore at all, of like messing with the like speed of the footage to change the way that things are going, or like the pacing, or just to make it sillier. Like I think that's a really fun thing that like if you did that now it would look ridiculous.
Totally.
Like and I assume like it's like you'd like there's something about how it's actually filmed that you do that more, but
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think it's like especially in like the comedies, like there's a lot of that, and I really enjoy it, and
Yeah.
I just it's an interesting like little bit of this specific kind of movie that is pretty much exclusive to it,
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting.
yeah.
Totally. Okay. Oh, here's a big one. Funniest scene.
Mine, okay,
about
this
this one.
is definitely not the funniest movie, but funniest scene goes to Wings. Just every Herman Schwimp scene.
Whoa, that's a crazy pick. Okay.
That's a great pick.
No, those scenes had me cackling.
They were
I know the circus is
fantastic.
hilarious, but Herman Schwimp, I think, has aged in such a hilarious way. I have to give it to it.
Okay. Al, do you have an idea? You want me to go?
That stupid buoy in Steamboat Bill. I explained the joke, and we were all cackling. It's like 2 seconds long, but it's so good.
I was originally going to give it to the tiger scene. I mean, the lion scene in the circus. But I think I'm actually going to have to flip. I'm going to go with Speedy again.
Oh.
I'm going to say that whole climax is so funny. There's another killer scene when he first gets the taxi cab that's really the turning point where you notice, hey, wait a minute, he suddenly got funny. But the ending scene, he hires a bunch of old men who like fought in the Union Army to like come and beat up a bunch of gangsters, a giant fight scene, and like his dog is like biting people.
All the like
I love when
business
dogs are
owners
biting
come to
people.
like fight the gangsters.
Yeah, people are like getting like ironed in the butt. Everyone gets hit in the butt, and there's like a Union boy who has like a peg leg, and they put like nails in his leg, and he keeps kicking people in the butt because people like hit them. Oh, it's so dumb. That's gonna be my funniest scene. Okay, I think this is gonna be pretty obvious. I think we might be unanimous on this one. Best ending.
John Mark.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give a shout out real quick. I think the ending of Wings is one of the best parts of the movie. I think the ending is really, great.
They
But
smooch.
I mean,
Spoilers.
who can resist Joan of Arc? I just, what a great ending.
Yeah, it's
It makes the movie. It makes the movie.
like it's what the whole thing's leading up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Joan of Arc. I almost want to say circus just because I think it's funny. And
Well, the last shot of
If you
Circus
want to
is
shout out
fantastic.
circus, like
but
I think you should shout out what you think.
I shout out circus on honorable mention for the circus, but it has to go to Passionate Joan of
for
Arc.
sure.
Oh, shucks, but that scene where the guy drinks himself and seashell in the clergy is really based. I gotta say, that last shot is based as heck. I gotta love that. All right, our next one is best title cards. Did I put this in there just to say that I could give another award to October, 10 Days to Shoot the World? Yes. The title cards are really, really, really funny.
Wasn't there was a film with like a title card that was like big flames, right? Or am I like making that up?
It might be Joan of Arc.
I don't think it was Joan of Arc.
Yeah, no, those are really boring title cards.
I
I'm
think
not sure.
Mine might have to go to Sunrise. I know Murnau hates them, but I think this movie had really cool creative title cards, that just like were kind of unique and like well decorated and often had something interesting going on with them. Yeah.
I want to shout out one title card in Wings where it just in big text, in big letters says, "War!" And for some reason that was really funny to me.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Best cinematography. Well, it might be strange. Now you're just becoming a Skeksis from Dark Crystal. So it might be strange. I'm going to give a shout out to Wings for the action cinematography.
That makes
I do
sense.
think it's really, really well shot out. I don't think that's my pick.
It is. There are a lot of. I was surprised by how many. I was like, damn, that's a really good shot.
I think Wings and Sunrise. Mind if I give mine?
Yeah. No.
I don't want to keep giving awards to this, but mine goes to Joan of Arc. Just the shots of these faces and the way that the Joan of Arc's death scene was filmed is so perfect, so perfectly done, and really, I think, what made the movie for me. Also, again, honorable mention to Wings for what Chris said, and Sunrise for some of those really beautiful, mysterious shots and some of that like framing and perspective stuff.
I think. Do you want to go?
No, you go first.
I think I would probably also give it to Joan of Arc, but since you've said it, I want to shout out. I'll give mine to Seashell and the Clergyman because there was a lot of really fun stuff there.
You stole my idea.
You could say more about it. I'm gonna be in the middle. I'm taking both of yours. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like the a lawful good answer is Joan of Arc, but like the chaotic good answer and where my heart's at is Seashell and the Clergyman. It's invigorating, original, inventive.
It's weird.
Ahead of its time.
I know I didn't put it in my honorable mentions, but that's honestly probably my second pick now that I think about it.
Yeah.
The framing of things, the lighting of things, the blocking of things, everything that goes into constructing the image you see is done to an immaculate degree.
For sure.
And varies so much that even though Joan of Arc is done with such precision, it feels like it's one thing, right? Whereas Seashell and the Clergyman, cinematography-wise, feels like it's going everywhere. It's doing so many different things. Okay, best production design. I'm gonna quickly give this one to Last Command for me. The scene, the costumes are great and the sets look like cool. So.
Mine might have to actually go to October. The sets weren't like constructed or anything, but you had this. It was very much in the like streets of this city during the Russian Revolution. That was really well framed. You had this like cast of peasants who just were wearing their peasant outfits. All the czars had like these goofy like elite outfits. It was all very well done, and I think it really helped show this sort of maximalism that the film really had.
We didn't talk about this great scene where a bunch of like bourgeoisie women come out with umbrellas
Yes.
and just kill a guy. They just kill a guy with umbrellas.
They like stab him to death. Yeah.
Yeah, they kill him. And then all his papers are in the water. It looks great. Oh man, that's a good scene. That's a good scene. It's so dramatic.
Well, I think I'm gonna have to. I don't think this was enough to get it the Oscar for me, but I gotta shout out Wings. Wings was like just so detailed and like so much stuff. Like I think they did a really good job with that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's a big one that I think we're all going to agree on again. Best actor/actress. We're sticking them together. Guys, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to have to say Maria Falcoretti from Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
Big surprise.
I was actually debating. Okay, I'm gonna go with her, but I was genuinely considering giving it to Charlie Chaplin because the Tramp is the Tramp. But like, he's been in so many more movies. Like obviously he deserves acclaim for his position, but like this is such like a standout once in a lifetime performance.
She does so much with that role.
And shout out, when we're talking about the circus, shout out to Al Ernest Garcia, who played the ringleader, who is so dubiously evil, but he is so good at that, and he just is so cartoonishly devious.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna I'll get a little shout out from my silent comedy here. Buster Keaton's great. I can't praise him enough. But the guy who plays his dad in that movie he's just like so like irritated all the time, and there's just something about him is so fun. He's got this kind of evil looking face, but like he's just like a guy, and he's a ton of fun.
All right. I added a couple here, so you guys can tell me maybe we should cut these. But I wanted to give something out for just best general like story, just a whole.
That was good.
God, I feel like I'm giving it too much stuff because I don't want to give it this much stuff, but I have to give it to Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc sweep!
I was going to give it to Wings, actually, because I think Joan of Arc, I think its beauty lies less in just purely the story and more in how it's told. Because it's just it's just a retelling of a historical tale.
It's just something about the precision of that kind of, just moving between, everything feels so intentioned and organized, of moving between questioning to, right, those guys are like coming in and mocking her, to the torture scene, to the graveyard scene. Everything feels very, you're not going to have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Al, do you have a best story?
That's that one. I can't say anything else.
Okay, hopefully this one will be interesting. Best score.
The jazz singer, just kidding.
His beautiful voice.
For me, it's definitely between Joan of Arc and Seashell and the Clergyman.
Oh God, that was a good one.
You
from
see, the thing is,
Answers.
I don't remember most of the scores.
Yeah.
So,
I really liked.
shout out to the guy who did Steamboat Bill Jr. at the Somerville Theater. My grandpa knew him.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I really liked the guy. The score for. I actually thought the score for Wings was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good, but it was nothing stand out.
Well, sure, but I don't know. I thought it was very befitting. I thought it did a great job of emphasizing the film. I am going to give my award to what I thought was the most dramatically interesting, which was October 10 Days That Shook the World.
Oh, really?
Last Command was also actually really good.
I see what you mean,
but
but you had the Shostakovich score.
Oh my
that
God,
was
it's
so good.
so exciting! Ah!
I think for me, it's definitely got to go to Seashell the Clergyman. Just the symphy, like
Yeah.
ambient
It was really
score,
interesting.
just like immersed me and sucked me into this like world of the Seashell the Clergyman, and was so effective at that.
Totally. Yeah, I'm happy that it's getting its due. Okay, we should have determined this earlier, but it is time to give out our personal best of the year, mid-1927 to mid-1928. How do we want to do this? Left to right, right to left? Do you want to start with our time-honored
you go
guest?
first.
Oh, shucks. Okay.
I can go first.
Well, as
you
I
go
was-
first. I said it already.
As I was, discussing these films, I was thinking a bit more. It is a really difficult decision. I have a lot of things that were so close, and a lot of these films, are going to be things, if not, all-time favorites. They are going to be things that I'm going to consider for a long time and that I'll look upon really fondly. And definitely a lot of them deserve rewatches. Whether it is, talking about something like. Talking about something like October or Seashell and the Clergyman, where it's to do even more kind of critical analysis and looking at that from an artistic perspective, or it's something fun like Speedy or The Circus, where it's like, I just want to watch it again because I enjoyed it so much. But I think in the end, while as filmmakers go, Charlie Chaplin might win the war, Sergei Eisenstein will win this battle. I would give my award to October 10 Days That Shook the World.
I think you did it in opposite order.
No, they won the battle. The battle's this Oscar. The war is all movie history. Charlie Chaplin wins.
Okay.
But Sergei Eisenstein takes this one.
Yeah.
Do you want to go next?
Sure. It was between kind of the whole time. It's been between two for me. There's two of the movies I saw that really just stood out to me as like, I love that one, and we have given Joan of Arc so much praise, but it's in my gut. I have to give it to Steamboat Bill Jr. I think all the way back at the start, we had a great argument for why stunts should have been a category, because the stuff he does, the house falling on him is like, he could have, if he was like an inch to the left, he would have died. Like that, the amount, like there's a bit, I'm just talking about the movie again now, but there's a bit before it falls where someone like peeks their head out of the window, and you can see it's a small window. It's not big. Like if he isn't in the exact right spot, that thing is gonna crush him. And thank God he's in the right spot.
That's why you have to learn math.
Yeah.
For the math, you can save
Stay in
less
school, kids. But it's such a riot, and there's so many good bits, and it's so much fun. Like I feel like I gotta hand it to that one.
Yeah.
I think I had something else I wanted to say and I forgot it. I don't care.
You get it
Sorry,
straight? Oh
Joan.
my God, look at how straight Julian's Oscar is now.
Oh yeah.
It's perfect. So I'm between two films to give
Looks like
my
Spider-Man got it.
broken, janky Oscar with Smeagol hair to.
Oscars.
Now I'm between.
Precious. And he's holding up a
Now-
Blu-ray of October 10 Days That Shook the World.
I feel a little bad for this because we have given this movie so much praise. It's
go for
won
it.
like so many subcategories, but mine has to go to Passion of Joan of Arc. It was just so just this perfect telling of such a tragic story that has so much emotional weight and so much experimentation and just does everything to such utter perfection that I think that it's a film that every filmmaker can certainly learn something from. The other film I was considering was The Circus, incredibly funny movie.
I was also considering that.
But as much as I love Charlie Chaplin, sorry, this is gonna have to go to Passion of Joan of Arc.
All right. Well, this is sad for us, but actually, you know what? Okay, before we give out our final prize, we want to do just a couple honorable mention of a couple films that we've seen recently that have not been in this time span that we found really great. Who wants to start with that? I'll start.
All right.
I saw I finally saw in theaters Powell and Pressburger's Red Shoes. The film is about a ballet performer, and it was one of those great ones where the first hour I was thinking like, okay, yeah, it's good, but it's like I don't understand why people like this movie so much. It's just not going to be me. And I had loved Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, another one of their films. Great British war epic, fantastic. But then you get to they're producing this ballet called The Red Shoes. You see the entire thing. It's like a 15-minute long sequence maybe, but it is one of, I think, the best scenes that I've seen that exists in film. There has been nothing so expressionist, so colorful, so wonderful, so dreamy, not in the sense that it's like a dream, but in the sense of it has such seductive power. It's romantic. It's heartbreaking. It is everything you could want. It is the spiritual climax of the movie. And that is not to say that after that happens, there's like an hour left, and it is fantastic. It is hitting on all cylinders. It is building on all of those things that they were constructing in the first act, and they're just making, banger after banger, scene, decision, lighting, cinematography. It is really one of the all-time greats. So, and one of my new favorites. I can't recommend The Red Shoes enough, if only for that ballet scene.
Yeah. I have an honorable mention. Abbas Kiarostami's A Taste of Cherry. It's this examination of this suicidal man who goes through these various people from different walks of life and asks them to assist in his suicide by in exchange for a large sum of money, basically saying, okay, I'm thinking of committing suicide. If come by this hole I dug in the morning, if I'm still alive, help me out. If I'm not, then just leave. And you sort of go on this you just see this man and who's so cold and closed off from everyone until this specific character comes around. And it's such a beautiful and just wonderful, stunning, but also so incredibly dark film. And it's really, I don't know how to describe it other than just, it leaves you thinking, and it feels like this stunning examination of life, of suicide, of cinema, of various people. And I think it's a film that anyone should watch at least once.
I actually heard Roger Ebert doesn't like it, so I'm not going to watch it. How would you say it stacks up stylistically? And you don't have to go on forever, but how do you think it stacks up stylistically to Close Up, the other
I think it has the same kind of pacing. It's definitely a slower movie.
Okay.
But also, this one, it's a narrative feature,
Yeah.
while Forever is a documentary. And I think it's definitely somewhat similar, as in it is this examination of this man. But this one has more of a definitive arc, and you sort of, at least for me, you felt way more emotionally entangled with this character and sort of see how he relates to other people, and just I think it's also, it's a more varied film in terms of its filming. You have these really you have these shots of him just traveling across this dune and his car, and it's really wonderful. But yeah.
Cool.
and I'm gonna talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You don't need me to tell you it exists, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, just saw it this weekend, and oh my god. I think I will get this out of the way now. I think it is a little bit bogged down by the fact that it's a part one. Like, by the end of it, there was a part of me that was kind of like, I just watched a 2-hour build-up to the next movie, but also like, there's so much detail packed in, and the smartest stuff I've ever seen done with animation. Like, there are the first movie was groundbreaking, has a ton of really cool stuff, and the stuff they do in this blows that out of the water. There are so many different characters who they just animate in such a particular stylistic way. One of the standouts is Spider-Punk, who played by Daniel Kaluuya, who's great. He shows up and he's animated entirely like he's almost like cutouts of newspapers or something, like this scrapbooky sort of look, and he's so strikingly different from everyone else, and it looks so good. It's so interesting. There's also a character who shows up just one-off at the beginning of the movie, the beloved Spider-Man villain, the Vulture. But he's from a dimension that's like a Leonardo da Vinci drawing, and he's like this mechanical wooden thing, but he looks like he's just drawn on paper, brown paper.
That's awesome.
When he showed up, I was like, oh my god, I wasn't ready. It was such a interesting. I never would have thought to do that. There's also a bit where there's a Lego Spider-Man, and that's funny. But yeah, just really fun movie, really, really heartfelt, and really just cool looking. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, this is very sad for us here now that our recording is actually done, but we are actually going to hand the ending off to our past selves. So I guess we'll see you there.
Yeah.
See you then.
Thanks, future self. We are now prepared to present the end of this incredible ceremony, and we have we couldn't get anyone better to present our final award than Will Saunders. Will Saunders, come on out here. Come on.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. All right. It is my pleasure to introduce the first ever Heart of the World Best Picture Oscar.
Woo! Woo!
Here we go.
I have no idea what it's going to be.
I don't either.
The Best Picture Award goes to The Passion of Joan of Arc by Carl Theodore Dreyer.
Let's go!
Congratulations,
Dreyer.
Hard-earned win.
Exactly.
He'd be so happy right now.
Well, we'd like to thank Carl
Too bad he's
Theodore
dead.
Dreyer. Too bad, yeah, he's rotting in his grave. But great job. Sad news, everyone. This will probably be one of our. Well, this might be our last major review with the Somerville Broadcast Club. We hope to keep the show going, but for now, and especially with the Broadcast Club as we know it, this will be our final big review. We might have one more small review, but this will be our final big push. So we'd like to give a nice big thanks to all the people who've helped out the show. Julian, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I would like to thank our host, Dan.
Oh, yep. Great showrunner. We'd like to thank our editors, Will and Brian, two really sweet and fantastic people.
This guy. We'd like to thank you, the viewer.
We would. Your support means a lot to us. We'd like to thank Atticus and Alex, Atticus being a very good friend of ours, for making these wonderful Oscars that we've given out tonight. So thank you to the Somerville Fab Lab.
We'd like to thank Al Peel, our wonderful
Yes,
guest.
Indubitably, we couldn't have the show without our first guest.
I'm the I don't know what I'm saying. I'm great.
You're the hero of the Heart of the
Yeah.
World Review Show.
That's what it is.
You're the real hero.
It's me.
Like
I'm the
Homelander
main
says.
character.
Do you have anyone else you want to thank?
Let's thank Somerville High School for uploading our goofy little reviews on our big old YouTube channel.
Exactly. And with that, we already said thanks to you at home, but another thanks to you at home. Keep on, thinking about movies critically. I hope we might have shown you something, and if not, I hope we entertained you.
Keep on watching movies.
Yeah. Keep on believing. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the Heart of the World first annual Oscar Review Show. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.